Okay, so imagine you're leading this 180-year-old steel giant, right?
Sure.
And you're facing like all these challenges, global overcapacity, skyrocketing energy costs, and even political pressure. That's ThyssenKrupp in 2024.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
It is. So we're going to dive deep into this turnaround strategy by this AI consultant, Elias Koulors.
Okay.
He's looked at ThyssenKrupp's annual report and insights from industry experts, and even factored in like the union and the political landscape.
Wow, so he's really trying to get the full picture.
Yeah, a holistic view
I like that.
to come up with a plan for success.
So it's not just like small changes he's suggesting, right?
Right, it's not incremental.
He's going big.
Yeah, he's proposing 10 immediate optimizations to maximize ROI and minimize job losses.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Maximize that ROI.
Exactly. But then he goes a step further
Okay.
with 25 blue ocean strategies.
Oh, wow. Now those sound interesting.
Yeah, and these are ideas that could, like, catapult ThyssenKrupp into totally new markets.
Okay, so completely new areas they haven't even thought of before.
Right, uncharted territory.
I'm intrigued. Let's dig into this.
Okay, let's set the stage first. What's going on with ThyssenKrupp right now?
Right.
According to their annual report,
Mm-hmm.
what's the financial snapshot?
Well, on the surface, they have 35 billion euros in revenue,
Okay,
which sounds pretty impressive.
yeah, 35 billion? That's a lot.
It is, but when you look closer, it's actually down 7% year on year.
Oh, so it's shrinking.
Yeah, and even more concerning is their net loss. 1.45 billion euros.
Wow, that's a big loss.
It is.
Yeah.
And then you add on top of that a 70% drop in free cash flow.
Okay, so it's not just revenue that's a problem. It's also their cash flow.
Right. The situation is pretty urgent.
Yeah, those numbers definitely show a company in distress.
Yeah.
So what does Elias think led them to this point?
Well, he says it's a combination of external and internal factors.
Okay, so things outside their control and things inside.
Exactly.
So what are the external factors?
Externally, they're dealing with a global steel glut.
Oh, so there's just too much steel out there.
Exactly. And then you've got fierce competition from those cheaper Asian imports.
Right, so they're getting squeezed from both sides.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are the high energy costs here in Germany.
Of course, high energy costs are hurting everyone.
Yeah. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of a declining domestic steel production trend.
So it sounds like the whole German steel industry is struggling, not just ThyssenKrupp.
Yeah, it's a tough time for the industry as a whole.
Okay, but what about those internal issues? What's going on within the company itself?
So internally, Elias points to a few things. Underutilized facilities, high personnel costs, some past mergers that didn't really work out as well as hoped.
Mergers gone wrong.
Yeah. And also, he argues that they've been really slow to adapt to evolving markets.
So they're kind of stuck in their old ways.
Yeah, basically, they've been relying on those traditional methods in a world that's rapidly embracing all these new technologies and approaches.
So the world is changing around them and they haven't kept up.
Right. It's created a real problem for them.
Okay, so before we get into Elias's proposed solutions, let's see what ThyssenKrupp is currently doing to try and address these issues.
Okay, so their current plan involves some pretty significant job cuts.
Oh no. How many are we talking?
They're planning to cut 5,000 jobs.
Wow, 5,000.
Yeah, and they're also looking to outsource another 6,000 positions.
Oh, so even more affected.
Right, and they're even closing a whole facility.
Oh, wow. So it's a pretty drastic plan.
It is, but on a more positive note, they're also investing in green steel technologies and partnering with a Czech investor.
Okay, so at least they're trying to move in a more sustainable and collaborative direction.
Exactly, trying to find some new opportunities.
But job cuts and outsourcing, I can only imagine how the unions feel about that.
Yeah, you're right to be skeptical. They are not happy.
So what's their reaction been?
Well, there have been threats of strikes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're demanding that these plans be completely withdrawn.
So they're not messing around.
Nope. They're serious about protecting their workers.
Of course. And of course, where there are unions and job losses, there are politicians.
Always.
So what's the political climate surrounding all of this?
Well, it's heating up. There's a lot of talk about potential government intervention.
What kind of intervention?
Well, there are some ideas being thrown around, like industrial electricity price support.
Okay, so helping with those high energy costs.
Right. And then there's talk of subsidies for green steel production.
Okay, so making it more affordable for them to invest in that.
Yeah. And then there are the broader corporate tax reforms being discussed.
So it's a pretty complex situation.
It is. It's a real minefield.
Yeah, with a lot of different stakeholders and viewpoints to consider.
Exactly. And everyone's got their own interests.
So how does our AI consultant Elias Calores propose to navigate all of this? Where does he even begin?
He starts with something called first principles thinking.
Okay, so what is first principles thinking?
Well, it's a problem-solving approach
Okay.
that innovators like Elon Musk use.
I'm always interested in new problem-solving methods.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool.
So for those of us who are unfamiliar, break it down for us. What does it actually mean?
It's about stripping away assumptions and boiling a problem down to its fundamental truths.
Okay, so getting rid of all the noise and getting to the core of it.
Right. Like you ask questions like, why does it have to be this way?
Right.
And what are the absolute essentials?
So you're really challenging the status quo.
Exactly. You're forcing yourself to challenge those constraints.
And a lot of those constraints are probably human-made, not actual laws of physics.
Exactly. A lot of times we limit ourselves unnecessarily.
So instead of just tweaking existing solutions,
Right.
you're going back to the drawing board and reimagining the whole problem.
Yeah. It's a much more radical approach.
That sounds pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Especially for a company like ThyssenKrupp that's so entrenched in tradition.
Right. It's about shaking things up and breaking free from those old ways of thinking.
Okay, so that's first principles thinking.
Yep. That's the foundation of Elias's approach.
Okay, so where does he go from there?
And to get even more specific, Elias uses this thing called the DFX method.
DF's method, what's that stand for?
It stands for Design for X.
Okay, so what's X?
Well, X could be like cost manufacturing, simplicity production rate. Whatever's most important.
So it's about designing the process with a specific goal in mind.
Exactly. You meticulously consider like every single facet.
Okay.
And you make choices to optimize for that chosen X factor.
So you're streamlining for specific goals.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so with this first principles thinking and the DFX method in mind, what are some of those quick wins that Elias sees for ThyssenKrupp? Like, where can they make impactful changes right away?
Well, one of the most promising areas for immediate savings is energy optimization.
Okay, so how do they optimize their energy use?
He suggests moving away from that traditional, like, scheduled maintenance
Okay.
and adopting a more predictive model.
So being more proactive.
Right. And this would involve using IoT sensors to monitor the actual wear and tear on their equipment.
Oh, so instead of just replacing parts on a schedule, they would only replace them when the sensors indicate that they're actually nearing the end of their lifespan.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. It's much more efficient.
So how much could they save by doing this?
Elias estimates that they could potentially save 50 to 100 million euros annually.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah.
Just from that one change.
Yeah. It's a pretty big deal.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly small changes can really add up.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts.
So what else is on this list of quick wins?
Another big opportunity is in inventory management.
Okay, how can they improve that?
He proposes implementing a pull-based production system.
Pull-based, what does that mean?
It means materials arrive just in time for production.
Oh, so they're not keeping a huge stockpile of inventory just sitting around.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It minimizes the amount of working capital that's tied up in excess inventory.
So it's a leaner, more efficient operation.
Yeah.
I like it.
Dollar.
So how much could they save with this?
Elias projects another 100 to 200 million euros in annual savings.
Wow. Again, those savings are adding up.
And remember, we're still talking about those initial quick wins.
Right. Not even the blue ocean stuff yet.
Exactly. There's a lot more potential to unlock.
Okay, so we've got energy optimization and leaner inventory management.
Yeah.
What's next on Elias's list?
He also suggests increasing production line flexibility
Okay, how do they do that?
by introducing what he calls modular production cells.
Modular production cells.
Okay.
I'm not an engineer. Break that down for me.
So basically, these cells could scale up or down based on demand.
So they can adjust their output quickly without having to completely overhaul their entire production line.
Right. It allows them to be much more responsive to market fluctuations.
So they can be more agile.
Exactly.
I like it. What about quality control? Any room for improvement there?
Definitely. Elias sees a lot of potential in overhauling their quality control by integrating inline quality monitoring that's powered by machine learning.
Okay, hold on. Machine learning and quality control. I'm picturing robots meticulously inspecting every piece of steel.
Well, sort of. Imagine sensors embedded throughout the production line, constantly monitoring for any deviations from those perfect quality standards.
Okay.
And then you have these machine learning algorithms analyzing this data in real time.
So they're catching those imperfections before they become big, expensive problems.
Exactly. It's like having 1,000 tiny inspectors all working around the clock.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how much could they save with this?
Elias estimates potential savings of 300 to 400 million euros per year.
Okay, so we're talking about serious money here.
Yeah, these are not small potatoes.
What other areas has Elias identified for improvement?
He also dives into supply chain optimization.
Okay, supply chain, that's always a big one.
It is. He advocates for strategic supplier consolidation.
So working with fewer suppliers, but building stronger relationships.
Exactly. And then vertical integration where possible.
So bringing some of those supply chain functions in-house.
Right. The fewer middlemen involved, the lower the costs.
And the greater the control over the entire supply chain.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about efficiency and technology.
Right.
But what about the human element?
Yeah.
A lot of these ideas seem to focus on automation and streamlining,
Right.
which often translates to job losses.
Right.
So how does Elias address that concern?
He proposes something he calls skills-based flexible workforce deployment.
Okay, break that down for me.
So instead of sticking to those rigid job titles,
Okay.
he envisions retraining and redeploying employees to different areas where their skills are most needed.
So upskilling the existing workforce rather than just cutting jobs outright.
Exactly. It's a much more humane and forward-thinking approach.
I agree. It shows that they're valuing their employees.
Right. The goal is to build a more agile and adaptable workforce.
One that can thrive in this new environment.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about those underutilized facilities?
Right. Remember ThyssenKrupp mentioned closing one?
Yeah, but maybe there's a way to make better use of the ones they keep.
Exactly. That's what Elias thinks. He calls it dynamic capacity allocation.
Dynamic capacity allocation. So what does that mean?
It's about maximizing the value creation time of every single machine hour.
So it's about squeezing every ounce of productivity out of their existing assets?
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
And that brings us to the final quick win on his list, right? What's his take on product mix optimization?
He believes every product in ThyssenKrupp's portfolio should be maximizing the margin per ton of capacity.
Okay, so not just making steel, but making the right steel.
Exactly. And this requires a data-driven approach, utilizing market analysis.
And probably some AI thrown in there too.
Right. Of course, AI is always part of the equation to determine the most profitable product mix for the current market conditions.
It's about being strategic and data-driven.
Exactly.
Okay, so with all these quick wins, how much does Elias think they could save in total?
He estimates that these 10 optimizations alone could save ThyssenKrupp somewhere between 2.75 and 3.7 billion euros annually.
That's not just a drop in the bucket. That's a tidal wave of savings.
It's a game changer for sure.
So how quickly does he think they can implement these changes and start seeing those benefits?
He believes they can achieve full implementation within 6 to 18 months.
That's remarkably fast for a company this size.
It is. But he believes it's possible.
And what about the initial investment? How much would it cost to implement all of these changes?
He estimates only about 20 to 30% of the expected savings.
So a relatively small investment for a potentially huge payoff?
Exactly. It's a
Fine.
no-brainer.
It certainly sounds like this could be a real turning point for ThyssenKrupp.
It could be. But wait, there's more.
Right. You mentioned that Elias also came up with 25 blue ocean strategies.
Ah, yes, the blue ocean strategies. This is where things get really exciting.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. What exactly are these blue ocean strategies, and how do they fit into this larger picture?
So these aren't just about incremental improvements. These are about diving into uncharted territory and creating entirely new market spaces where ThyssenKrupp can dominate without competition.
Okay, I need an example. What does one of these blue ocean strategies look like in practice?
Okay, picture this green steel as a service subscription.
Green steel as a service.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So ThyssenKrupp is already dipping its toes into green steel production.
Right.
But Elias proposes taking it much further.
Okay, how?
Imagine them offering a subscription service that provides a steady supply of green steel,
Okay,
but it doesn't stop there.
there's more.
Oh, yeah. It also includes things like carbon footprint tracking, sustainability consulting, and even performance-based pricing models.
Well, they're not just selling the product, they're selling a whole suite of services and solutions.
Exactly. They're becoming a one-stop shop for businesses that are looking to incorporate green steel into their operations.
It's brilliant.
Right.
They're addressing the growing demand for sustainability.
Exactly.
What kind of market potential are we talking about with this idea?
Elias estimates that the market potential for this green steel as a service subscription could reach 5 billion euros by 2030,
Okay.
then skyrocket to 12 billion by 2040,
Wow.
and hit a staggering 20 billion by 2050.
Those are some serious numbers. Okay, I'm hooked. Give me another one of these innovative blue ocean ideas.
All right, how about this industrial AI consultancy services?
Industrial AI consultancy, so they're going to become consultants.
Well, they're already developing AI expertise internally, right? To implement those quick wins we talked about.
Right.
So why not leverage that knowledge
Okay.
and become a consultant for other industries that are struggling to optimize their processes?
So they're taking their internal knowledge and turning it into a new revenue stream.
Exactly. It's a win-win. They help other companies become more efficient,
Okay.
and they generate revenue from their existing knowledge base.
Smart. What's the revenue potential for that?
He projects it could generate 3 billion euros in revenue by 2030, scaling up to 8 billion by 2040,
Okay.
and reaching 15 billion by 2050.
Okay, so another huge opportunity.
It's a low capital investment, high margin opportunity, with a vast potential market.
Okay, I need one more. Give me another one of these mind-blowing blue ocean strategy.
All right, prepare to have your mind blown.
Okay, I'm ready.
Elias calls this one the circular steel economy platform.
Whoa, that sounds incredibly ambitious. What exactly does he envision with this platform?
Imagine a digital marketplace where ThyssenKrupp facilitates the recycling and remanufacturing of steel,
Yeah.
creating a closed-loop system that minimizes waste
Okay.
and maximizes resource utilization.
So they're essentially becoming the central hub for a sustainable steel ecosystem.
Exactly. They're taking responsibility for the entire life cycle of their steel, from production to recycling and back again.
I can see how that would resonate with businesses that are focused on sustainability and reducing their environmental impact.
Absolutely. It's a win for everyone.
What's the revenue potential for this circular economy platform?
Elias estimates it could generate around 4 billion euros in revenue by 2030, scaling up to 9 billion by 2040,
Okay.
and reaching 15 billion by 2050.
So yet another massive opportunity.
And the best part is, it leverages their existing customer relationships
Right.
and requires minimal new infrastructure.
These blue ocean strategies are all so incredibly creative and far-reaching.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to think that all this could stem from a company that's currently facing such serious challenges.
And that's the beauty of first principles thinking. It encourages you to break free from those conventional assumptions
Right.
and explore a whole new world of possibilities.
So instead of just trying to survive,
Right.
they're looking to completely reinvent themselves. It's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away by all this optimism, let's talk about feasibility. Are these ideas actually realistic? Can a 180-year-old steel giant really transform itself into this innovative, agile powerhouse?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it really is. And that's what we'll try to figure out right now.
Exactly.
Right.
We've heard about the potential, but what about like the actual practical realities
Right.
of making these changes happen?
Yeah. It's definitely important to remember that putting these plans into action,
Right.
it's going to come with its own set of challenges.
Of course.
You know, it's one thing to like brainstorm and come up with all these innovative strategies,
Right.
but then actually translating those ideas into tangible results, that takes a lot of careful consideration and execution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do we even start to figure out if all of this is actually feasible?
Well, I think a good place to start is to go back to those 10 first principles optimization.
Right, those immediate actionable steps.
Exactly. Remember, Elias believes those changes alone
Right.
could save ThyssenKrupp billions annually,
Yeah.
and they can be implemented relatively quickly.
Right, and then they can use those savings to fuel those more ambitious blue ocean strategies.
It's a smart approach.
But are those long-term strategies really feasible?
Right.
I mean, some of them,
Yeah.
like that circular steel economy platform, it sounds almost futuristic.
I get it. But if you look closely, a lot of these blue ocean strategies are actually rooted in like existing capabilities and emerging trends.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Like take the green steel as a service subscription, for example.
Okay.
That builds on ThyssenKrupp's existing investment in green steel production.
Right. They're already doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also capitalizes on the increasing demand for sustainable solutions from businesses.
So they're tapping into a real market need.
Right.
And the industrial AI consultancy services idea
Right.
that uses their internal AI expertise,
Which they're already developing.
right, for their own optimization efforts.
Exactly. So they're basically turning their internal knowledge into a marketable service.
Very clever. And then the circular steel economy platform,
Right.
as ambitious as it sounds,
Yeah.
that taps into the whole global movement towards circular economy solutions.
Exactly. It's a trend that's gaining momentum across so many industries.
So they wouldn't be going it alone.
Right. There's a whole ecosystem developing around this concept.
So while some of these ideas might seem far-fetched at first glance,
Right.
they're actually grounded in real-world trends and ThyssenKrupp's existing strengths.
Exactly. They're not just pulling these ideas out of thin air.
Okay, but let's be realistic here.
Mm.
What are some of the hurdles they might face trying to implement all of this?
Well, even with the best ideas, there will be challenges. Implementing any of these strategies
Right.
is going to require significant investment,
In terms of
both new technologies and personnel training. They're going to need to invest in the infrastructure
Right.
and the expertise to make these visions a reality.
And we can't forget about the potential pushback from unions and politicians.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those
Yeah.
initial job cuts and outsourcing plans, they've already created a lot of friction.
Right. So navigating that political and social landscape.
It's going to be crucial for the success of this whole turnaround strategy.
Yeah. They're going to need to find ways to address the concerns of those who might be negatively impacted by these changes.
Absolutely. Communication and collaboration are going to be key.
So it seems like ThyssenKrupp has a real opportunity here,
They do.
but it's not going to be an easy journey.
It's not. It's going to require careful planning, strategic investment, and a lot of collaboration with all those different stakeholders.
But it sounds like it's worth it.
It definitely could be. It's important to remember that the alternative, doing nothing,
Right.
that's not really an option.
Yeah.
The steel industry is changing rapidly,
Right.
and ThyssenKrupp needs to adapt if it wants to not just survive, but actually thrive in this new landscape.
And these blue ocean strategies, they offer a path not just to survival, but to
Mhm.
potentially becoming a global leader
Right.
in all these innovative solutions.
It's a pretty remarkable turnaround story.
It is. And what's so fascinating to me about this whole case study
Yeah.
is how it really highlights the power of first principles thinking.
It's not just a problem-solving technique.
Right.
It's a way of thinking that can completely revolutionize entire industries.
It's about questioning assumptions, dismantling barriers,
Yeah.
and ultimately reimagining what's possible.
Exactly. It's about looking at this 180-year-old steel giant
Right.
and saying, what if?
And those what ifs can lead to some really groundbreaking ideas.
They can,
Yeah.
as we've seen with Elias Coulour's vision for ThyssenKrupp.
Right. It's a great example of how even those industries that are deeply rooted in tradition
Right.
can find new paths to growth and innovation.
Absolutely. It's a very hopeful story.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out to you as the most promising element of this whole turnaround plan?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the combination of those practical, quick win optimizations
Right.
with the bolder, more visionary blue ocean strategies.
Okay.
It's a balanced approach, you know?
Right.
It addresses both the immediate need for cost savings
Right.
and that long-term goal of reinventing the company for a new era.
I agree. And I think it's incredibly inspiring to see how AI can be used,
Yeah.
not just to analyze complex problems,
All right.
but to generate creative outside-the-box solutions.
It's a powerful tool.
It is. This case study really gives us a glimpse of what's possible when you combine human ingenuity with the power of AI.
It does. It makes you wonder what else we can achieve.
Exactly. So if ThyssenKrupp can pull this off,
Yeah.
what other industries could be revolutionized by this kind of forward-thinking approach?
It's an exciting thought. It really makes you think about the possibilities.
It does. Maybe the future of business isn't just about doing things better,
Right.
but about daring to do entirely different things.
I like that.
And on that note, we'll leave you to contemplate the possibilities. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the potential future of ThyssenKrupp. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.